Good evening, everyone.
Here we go.
We're good to
LCG
go?
about to
Just want
get
to remind
started.
everyone, a few minutes ago, about 15 minutes ago, a curfew went into effect in Lafayette Parish. Started at 8 p.m. And it goes until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. So if you are out on the streets right now and you're not essential, you don't have a valid reason or a job that requires you to be out, you need to get home right now. You need to stay home throughout the duration of this. We could be looking at strong winds from now until about 8 to 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So again, please, if you don't have to be out, don't be out. If you have an emergency, call 911. They will direct you as to what to do next as far as whether to go out or whether or not they're going to send someone to you. Just to let you know, once winds hit about 35 to 40 miles per hour, ambulance service is not operating. It's too dangerous for those vehicles to be out on the roads, especially with the winds. There's too much of a risk of them flipping over. So if there are emergencies that require medical response, the Lafayette Fire Department will be sending trucks. Surrounding municipalities will be sending their fire trucks to provide that medical assistance for those who need. Last update, as you all know, the storm, Hurricane Laura, is about 95 miles south of Lake Charles, 150 mile per hour winds. Fortunately, we're in a position where we're not going to see the worst impacts of this storm, but we're still going to see some impacts, and it's crucial that folks listen to any sort of messaging or warnings that are put out and stay at home, stay hunkered down. If you haven't made arrangements to go someplace else or finished your preparations, you need to be done with those right now, because we're about to get into the start of this. And again, don't put our first responders at risk. If you aren't listening to what's being told to you, this guidance, and someone has to come out and rescue you, you're putting other lives at risk in addition to your own. Lafayette Mayor President Josh Guillory went around the entire parish today. He spoke with police chiefs in the municipalities, with the mayors, to ensure that everyone was prepared and ready. They are. They have everything they need in place, preparing for the worst, hoping for the best. LUS, we've got thousands of mutual aid crews and expert rescue volunteers that have descended upon Lafayette. They're based right here in Lafayette, and they're going to provide assistance both here and in surrounding parishes. So unfortunately, Lafayette's in a position where we can be sort of a staging area for those teams to dispatch from, and they can kind of still ride out the storm and be somewhat safe and protect their equipment. Again, we've got teams from cities throughout the state, as far as North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee. They've got airboats, water rescue boats, water rescue vehicles, all sorts of different tools at their disposal. And the Sheriff's Department as well is on standby to provide water rescue assistance if need be, either here in the parish or elsewhere in our neighboring parishes, who are probably going to take a pretty serious blow from this. And we want them to know that we support them, and we'll be here to support them as much as we can throughout this process. Here in Lafayette, the Vermilion Street at Surrey, last word I got was at around 6 feet. It's expected to reach about 13 feet. The latest reports I saw, that is a minor flood level. Right now, there's not a lot of alarm as far as significant flooding. We could see saltwater intrusion as far up as Lafayette, but we're not going to see any of the intrusion that we're seeing south of here, like in Vermilion Parish, St. Mary, and Cameron parishes. Big thank you to our first responders. They've been working around the clock to prepare to ensure our citizens are safe. They'll be here around the clock in case anything happens, in case things go a little worse than we expected. Once winds increase, remember, ambulance service won't be running until possibly 8 or 10 p.m. We could see those hurricane force winds, wind gusts. We may not see hurricane force sustained winds, but some areas, maybe in the western parts of the parish, could see some of those gusts in excess of 70, 80 miles per hour. So we need to be prepared for that. And again, I'll remind everyone, dial 211 for resources or info that is non-emergency. If you want information about resources, places you can possibly get food, or mostly post-storm stuff. You can dial 311 option 1 if you want to report a power outage with LUS or issues with your water service. Option 2 if your fiber goes out, LUS fiber. I know originally we had said dial option 3 and it will route you to a line to report water in the roadways. In fact, the number you call if there's flooding. If you see roads starting to flood or your home is starting to flood, dial 911 and they will respond accordingly. Also, if you do have damage post-storm, we encourage you to go to the Lafayette OSEP webpage. There's a disaster questionnaire form to fill out. It's important that you fill that out so that you're in the database, your information gets sent through FEMA, and that also helps us get that FEMA declaration sooner. So we need people to do that as soon as they possibly can. We also put some information out earlier about what to do with storm debris. Again, it's important that if you do have storm debris, you separate it by type. You can find all that information on our Facebook page, Lafayette Consolidated Government on Facebook. Some very important information as far as how to properly put that material, that debris out for pickup. So with that said, do you all have any questions?
Would you say that with the curfew in effect, that if people haven't evacuated now, then just stay in their homes
That's correct.
throughout the night?
Right. I mean, the assumption is if you haven't evacuated at this point, you feel that your dwelling, wherever you're staying, is safe enough. It's getting to be a little late to have second thoughts about that. So again, try to stay where you are. Only leave if there's an emergency.
And when should we expect emergency vehicles to stop responding?
Emergency vehicles won't stop responding. Ambulances, once wind gets to a certain strength, because of the profile of the vehicle, it just makes it unsafe. So again, we're still going to provide emergency services. It's just that ambulance service may not get ambulance service for some time. But again, we will have the fire department go out and respond to those emergency calls, to those medical emergency calls.
Could you further expound on why it's important for people to stay inside so that the emergency responders can do their job?
Yeah, because the more people we have out and about, and the more people that get themselves in a bind, that's the more resources we have to use to help those folks. You know, if enough people decide that they're can stay where they are and they end up in danger, well, there's going to be a point where if enough people do that, we may not have the resources available to help everyone as we need to. And also, it also puts a strain on our first responders. We want to make sure that, we're not working them to the max to where they're working around the clock and not able to get rest or, get those breaks in there. So again, if we don't have to put someone, and quite frankly, it puts their lives in danger. And our goal is to not put anyone's lives in danger, including our citizens, which is why we ask them to stay inside and make sure that they're making the right decision.
Jimmy, at first or at least most recently, we were looking at the heavy winds starting in the next couple of hours and rain accumulating mostly throughout the day tomorrow. Is there any change in the timing of the storm so far?
From what I understand, we are going to start seeing those winds increase a good bit over the next few hours, with landfall still projected around 1 a.m. Those sustained strong tropical storm force winds will continue through the overnight hours until about maybe 8 or 9 in the morning. Rains, again, with these storms, it's almost kind of a wait and see. Rains hopefully should be winding down by midday, early afternoon. But again, from what I understand, latest forecasts I've seen, we could be expecting rain for the next few days. So again, not going to make anything very easy when it comes to having to clean up.
How have your emergency preparedness plans changed because of the coronavirus? What changes have you had to make?
Well, I mean, obviously, our folks are going to take every precaution that they can, but given the circumstances, it's hard to kind of social distance when you're trying to save someone's life, but they're going to take all the necessary steps that they can to ensure that they're protecting themselves and the patients. But when it comes down to it, the primary goal is to save lives, and they'll continue to do that.
Any plans, like in terms of sheltering, should that be necessary, like social distancing in that situation?
We don't have any plans at this point as far as opening a shelter. It's very difficult, as I'm sure you're aware, to open shelters at this time because of social distancing and COVID-19. Again, that's something that we're assessing as we go along. If down the road, something like that comes up, we'll address it then. But at this time, there are no plans to open a shelter.
Jimmy, you said the Vermilion River forecast has us in a moderately safe place with milder flooding there.
Mm-hmm.
Are we concerned because of the storm surge in more southerly parishes that our coolies may have a harder time dealing with it than the river will?
I'll tell you that we've been working very hard to make sure that our coolies are in the best possible shape that they can be. In fact, Mayor President Guillory, hurricane or not, from day one was determined to ensure that we start really cleaning out our drainage system. Right now, there are no extreme concerns. However, again, with these storms, we never know exactly what's going to happen. So we need to be prepared for anything. And we are prepared at this point to respond if something like that were to happen. All right, any other questions?
You know when you might next give people an update of the situation?
We are going to aim for possibly somewhere between 10 p.m. and landfall. I'll update you guys, make sure you're aware, and we'll continue to push out information as we get it. But until the storm kind of starts ramping up, we won't have any new information until then. So as soon as we do, I'll make sure that you guys are notified. So
How frequently are you guys getting in touch with the Weather Service in Lake Charles? Are they
every
are they
2
still-
hours.
Oh, they're still operating down there?
They are not. National